Well, my friends, our farmers are facing a full-blown crisis, and it's not because of Mother Nature, it's because of policy failures that are destroying American agriculture from within. You're a large corporate farm, and an adjustment period may mean one thing. If you're a small to medium-sized family farmer, it may mean something completely different. The fields that once fed the world are now overgrown with weeds. American farmers are protesting in despair. They're not demanding higher wages or special privileges. They just want to be able to plant and sell what they have sweated to produce. Millions of tons of American agricultural products are being abandoned, destroyed, while our northern neighbor Canada is quietly laughing as they take over everything. They quietly took over, signing contract after contract, seizing an agricultural export network worth over $10 billion once belonging to the United States. And if you think this is happening somewhere far away, then you might be wrong. It is affecting meals, bills, and the food sovereignty of every American, starting from the very fields in their hometowns. Has the new trade policy put an end to American agriculture right on American soil? Which state lost contracts first? Who is really benefiting? And why isn't the media saying anything about this crisis? This video will tell you the truth. This story is not just about food, but about power, honor, and the survival of the American farmer. And it's just the beginning. In mid-June, a field spanning hundreds of acres in Kansas caught fire. Not due to natural disasters, not due to an unexpected incident, but it was the farmers themselves who set the fires. You heard it right, dozens of farmers standing in a line holding up banners. "You cut our support, we cut our crop." Below them, the golden wheat swayed in the fire. It seems that no one intervened, no one came to harvest. Only the hot wind and silent rage remained. What on earth happened? Just a few years ago, Kansas was still the breadbasket of America, where every exported grain of wheat carried with it the trust in American quality. Everyone thought no matter what happens, the world still needs American wheat. But then, within just 1 year, 3 out of the 5 main markets in the Middle East and North Africa, including Egypt, Algeria, and the UAE, canceled their contracts and moved to Canada. No notice, no objections, they simply stopped buying. And for the farmers in Kansas, that withdrawal is nothing short of a nightmare. The market is lost. Government subsidies were cut. The prices of fertilizers, fuel, and machinery maintenance have skyrocketed. There's only one option to avoid bankruptcy: burn the crop to collect the insurance money. A 62-year-old farmer said wearily, "I don't need anyone's pity. I need to cultivate and have someone to buy." He's been growing wheat for over 40 years, but this year, he burned the entire harvest. Not because they lack the strength to harvest, but because harvesting will incur a heavier loss than burning. When Canada was announced to have won 3 out of 5 contracts for the wheat that the US once held, the people of Kansas were no longer angry. They only felt disappointed and disheartened. That friendly neighbor quietly did the things that America no longer does: deliver on time, ensure quality, invest from the ground up. And while Kansas is shrouded in smoke and bitter silence, wheat containers from Saskatchewan have crossed the border heading towards Asia. The seeds are sown, but there is no one to harvest. Not because of poor soil, not because of harsh weather, but because faith has been withdrawn from this place. But the story of the Kansas farmers is just beginning. In the next state, the crisis does not come from fire, but from an eerie silence. No smoke, no banners, only the ripe cherries falling to the ground, and no one picks them up. At the beginning of July in the Walawa region, once bustling every cherry season, only the sound of the wind blowing through the orchard remains. No trucks coming to pick up the goods. There's no fruit-picking team, no laughter, no calls to each other in the summer noon. Only the bright red cherries lie on the ground, cracked, oozing juice, and disappearing into the dust. What happened? Just a rumor that ICE might patrol near the farm. The entire immigrant labor force disappeared overnight. No one was arrested, no one was stopped. It's just fear, and no longer any trust. A young farmer said with a choked voice, "I don't need border fences, I need hands to pick the fruit." 40% of the cherry yield was not harvested. A series of export contracts were canceled due to late deliveries. The packaging factories are cutting shifts. Roadside restaurants close early. In Seattle supermarkets, the price of domestic cherries has doubled, but the shelves remain empty. The entire state of Washington, once the premium fruit capital of America, now resembles an abandoned forest. But in the north, British Columbia, Canada, it is a different world. As early as February, they signed a complete cherry contract for 2025 with China, South Korea, Japan, and Europe. What do? It's not about tricks or sweet persuasion. They simply harvest the fruit on the right day, package it to standard, and transport it in refrigerated trucks 24/7 to the port of Vancouver. No one declared victory, but in just one quarter, Canada gently took away $300 million US in contracts that Washington once held. But that is still not the thing that hurts the people of Washington the most. The most painful thing is standing in the orchard full of fruit and being unable to do anything. It is watching the money fall to the ground one fruit at a time. It is the unspoken disappointment when the bank still calls on time while the one who harvested never comes back. Perhaps in the midst of the harvest season, the most precious thing is not the fruit, but the belief that someone is still waiting for it. Leaving Washington, head to California, where the bundles of green vegetables are now imported from elsewhere. If the cherries in Washington have already caused enough trouble for the farmers, in California, once known as the green heart of America, even though it is the middle of the harvest season, the greens are not being picked. Not because of natural disasters, not because of a lack of water, but because no one comes to take it. No one waits for it. No one pays for it. Along the highway near Salinas, the capital of greens, farmers set up tents to protest in front of the USDA office. On the sign was the sarcastic phrase, "Where's the American salad?" The question seems silly, but it contains deep pain. Vegetables still grow lush. People still plant, still water, still care. But when harvest day comes, no orders, no refrigerated trucks, no contracts. Where did that contract end up? Not far away, right next to us. Our Canadian friends have quietly signed, and that's why a bunch of lettuce sold for over $6 in a Fresno supermarket is labeled Product of Canada. American consumers frown, but with no other option they still have to buy because it is the only choice. In low-income neighborhoods in San Jose and Sacramento, fresh vegetables have become a luxury. An elderly woman living on a pension said tearfully, "I never thought that in California I would have to choose between vegetables and medicine." Meanwhile, Canada, especially Ontario and British Columbia, has been preparing for a long time. They not only cultivate, but also build internationally standard cold storage facilities and invest in temperature control systems from the farm to the Tokyo import warehouse. They don't need to be cheaper, just on time, up to standard, and true to their commitments. And so from Singapore to the United Kingdom, from France to Mexico, places that once imported vegetables from California now all sign contracts with Canada. No need for declarations, no need to devalue, as long as the US doesn't arrive on time. According to the latest data, California lost nearly $900 million US in vegetable export value in just the past 3 months. But the greater loss is the belief that our country can sustain itself. In Salinas, many farmers have to abandon their own vegetable fields that they had nurtured and cared for right in the middle of the season, not because they were damaged, but because the harvest would result in a bigger loss than not harvesting at all. A bunch of unsold vegetables not only means losing money, but also losing reputation and future prospects. In Iowa, farmers don't burn the fields like they do in Kansas, not taking to the streets to protest like in Washington or California. They're just standing silently in front of their corn storage filled to the brim, but with no orders yet. A man who had devoted his entire life to the family farm, left by his parents. Every year he wakes up early, carries seed bags, drives the tractor, and checks each row. This year he achieved the highest yield in the past 10 years. 2.6 billion bushels of corn and 100 million bushels of soybeans, a record for Iowa. But that record didn't make him feel happy. Markets that used to import soybeans from Iowa, such as the Philippines, South Korea, and Southeast Asia, have signed long-term contracts with Manitoba, Canada. They don't criticize American quality, they only need stability, something Iowa cannot commit to. The silos are full, trucks are idle, and the ethanol plants are shutting down due to insufficient output. He used to believe that if he just planted, the land would give back. But the land this year is still fertile. Corn still produces ears. The only thing is, the market has disappeared. In the north, the people of Manitoba are holding a fall festival because they have just completed a corn export contract to China. They may not produce more than Iowa, but they have buyers even before planting. That might be a paradox that no American farmer has ever thought of before. If wheat is the heart, then beef was once the soul of American agriculture. And Texas, with its sprawling grasslands and thousands of hectares of ranches, is the capital of beef. A place that once raised nearly 1/4 of the country's total cattle herd once exported millions of pounds of meat each week to Japan, Korea, Singapore, Mexico. But now the barns are empty. The grass has withered and the "for sale" sign is leaning under the 100-degree sun. In the suburbs of Amarillo, the residents are not protesting. They are retreating quietly, not because the cattle are of poor quality, but because no one buys them anymore. Asian markets are tightening standards, traceability, no growth hormones, halal processes, ESG certification. But unfortunately, the US couldn't keep up while Canada was already 10 years ahead. In Alberta and Manitoba, each cow is tagged with a QR code from birth to shipment. Japanese customers can scan the QR code on the steak and know exactly what the cow ate, where it lived, and how it was raised. As for the US, perhaps the ambiguity in the process has caused them to turn away. Partners are concerned not only about safety, but also about control and transparency. A farmer said bitterly, "We don't lose because we aren't good. We are losing because we are no longer trustworthy." At family restaurants in Dallas, steak portions are getting smaller. In Houston, many restaurants have started importing meat from Brazil. Fresh, up to standard, and available. A thin slice of steak lying on a white plate is no longer a source of pride, but a memory being replaced. And when Canada quietly takes over the hundreds of millions worth contract with Asia, the US is not losing in a specific battle. The US is perhaps gradually losing each slice, each memory of dinner, each broken promise. When a child in Tokyo orders a grilled beef dish and the meat comes from Alberta, no one notices. But for the Texas farmer, it feels like a blow to the very symbol of the nation. Beef used to be the American dream, but now it has become just a product sourced from elsewhere. When farmers take to the streets to protest, it is not just a cry for help from the fields. It is a warning for the entire national supply chain. Prices at supermarkets are rising uncontrollably, not because of a lack of land or farmers, but because the domestic distribution chain is collapsing piece by piece. A supermarket chain in Colorado has just signed a contract to import corn from Canada after 2 local farms went out of business due to continuous losses. A supermarket manager shared, "We don't want this, but we have no other choice." Americans are now living in a strange paradox. On one hand, we import corn from Mexico at a high price. On the other hand, American farms have to sell soybeans cheaply to China because they can't compete with Canada in major markets. When the US loses its export position, it's not just losing orders, but losing jobs, losing processing plants, and losing entire communities. In Iowa, a grain packaging plant that used to operate 24/7 for many years now only operates 3 days a week. Nearly 200 workers have been laid off. And when American goods are rejected in Asia and Europe, a series of agricultural products are left in stock. Farmers no longer have the budget to reinvest. Some farming families have been cultivating the land for 4 generations. Now they have to put up a "for sale" sign on their ancestral land. The problem does not lie with the farmers, but with the way the system is treating them. When the incentive policies were cut, logistics costs skyrocketed, and Canada received tax preferences, foreign companies chose Canada as their new partner, not because they don't like the United States, but because we are making it difficult for ourselves. So what will happen if this trend continues? Will future generations still see local farms? Or will they only see foreign branded products flooding the shelves, shipped from another country instead of local farmers in their own state? What do you think? Do you feel like you're gradually being forced to choose without actually having a choice? While American farmers take to the streets, burning fields, erecting banners, and shouting for their right to continue farming, in the North, Canada says nothing. No protests, no arguments, not appearing on television. They only do one thing which now seems more valuable than natural resources. They deliver on time. In today's world of trade, the country that delivers on time, that country has the right to rewrite the rules of the game. And Canada is quietly rewriting the entire map of agricultural exports. Since 2022, Canada has not only been farming, they are building ecosystems. They connected the railway from the cultivation area to the seaport. They installed the cold storage system according to Japanese standards. They trained the next generation of agricultural students not only to know how to cultivate, but also to manage the value chain. They don't try to swagger or undercut to win. They just need to uphold commitments to replace. And the irony is, they succeeded not because they ran faster than the US, but because the US couldn't keep up. While the US is embroiled in a field of disputes over subsidy losses, Canada is quietly packing the first shipment to Asia. While the US is fuming over fertilizer prices, Canada is doing a final check on the QR code on a piece of beef before exporting it to Japan. When the US is asking, "Why are customers leaving us?" the customer had already signed a 5-year contract with the North. The winner doesn't need to shout, just deliver the right goods to the right standards and keep your promises. And in a world full of upheaval, where reputation becomes the new currency, Canada doesn't need to fight for market share. They just need to be present when the US is no longer there. Many people still think that the US cannot be replaced in the global agricultural supply chain because the US has land, people, technology, and brands. But perhaps they have forgotten one important thing. In today's world, trust is the most valuable currency, not just products. And trust in American agricultural products is collapsing, not overnight, but through hundreds of contracts not being renewed, millions of orders not being delivered on time, and tens of millions of dollars being diverted to Canada. What is the real reason behind this setback? First and foremost, we must mention the people. It's not that American farmers no longer want to work, but they no longer have people to work with. The tightening immigration policy has caused the seasonal workforce, which is the backbone of the harvesting industry, to disappear. Just a rumor about ice and the entire cherry orchard in Washington is left barren. But Canada is different. They quietly issue agricultural work visas, build housing for workers, and organize the Harvest Ready program to train laborers before the season. This has enabled them to have a strong workforce in the agricultural sector to meet any demands from customers. Next is about the cost. While Canada invests from the ground up, railways, ports, cold storage, inspection, they reduce costs strategically, not by cutting corners. So which way does the US choose? Fertilizer prices are rising, fuel prices are rising, logistics costs are rising, but subsidies are being cut to the point that a farmer in Iowa said, "I don't need cash, I need contracts." And there's one more reason even more important, and that is the standards. The international market now not only needs cheap products, they need clean, transparent, and traceable ones. Canada issues QR codes for each batch of beef, temperature standards in the cold chain, and ESG certification. Meanwhile, the US is still tangled in the regulations between federal and state, between USDA and EPA. As a result, hundreds of large orders drift away without anyone holding on to them. America is not defeated. America has been left behind by the very things that once made it strong. In the race for trust, the one who keeps their word is the winner. And this time, America arrived late. No one is waiting. American farmers are not lazy. They don't quit their jobs. They don't complain. They're just exhausted because they have done everything right, yet still been left behind. American farmers were once symbols of diligence, discipline, and the belief that the seeds they sow would always be needed. They used to believe that this country would always support them because they feed this country, but now they are protesting not to demand more money, but to reclaim the role that has been taken from them. A soybean farmer in Iowa said tearfully, "I still have land, still have the tractor, still have strength, but I'm not sure if anyone still needs my agricultural products." That statement is not just a personal sorrow. It is a wake-up call for a country that once led in agriculture, but is now letting trust fade with each harvest. When a field is burned to collect insurance, when a warehouse of ripe cherries goes unharvested, when California vegetables are uprooted in the middle of the season, when Texas beef is replaced by QR codes from Alberta, when Iowa soybeans pile up with no one asking for them, it's no longer a technical issue, that is a mental challenge for the farmers. A country that once fed the whole world now opens the fridge and sees only labels saying "Product of Canada." A generation of farmers raised once proud of their profession now dare not advise raise their children to continue. And the most heartbreaking thing, it's not about losing money, but it's losing faith that the next season will be better. Because planting needs hope, harvest needs a market, and now only the prolonged silence remains among the fields that once rejoiced. If American farmers cannot compete right in their own country, then who will feed America in the next 10 years? When the fields in Iowa are barren and the shipment of agricultural products go straight from Saskatchewan to Europe, we are forced to ask a big question. Is America losing the most fundamental thing, the right to feed itself? Many people blame technology. Some others criticize trade agreements. But the truth is, when fertilizer prices increase by 300% in 2 years, land taxes escalate, and policy incentives are funneled into the green technology sector, then farmers feel they are being left behind. This is not the story of a small group. This is a story about food security, about the survival of millions of families, and about who is really controlling the meals of Americans. If today you no longer recognize the taste of America in dinner, then in 10 years, where will you recognize America? What do you think? Is the government doing enough to protect farmers? Is America losing its role as the breadbasket of the world? And is your state affected by this change? Please share in the comment section below. If you found this video important and eye-opening, please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our upcoming analyses. Because every view, every voice, every share can create change. Your engagement helps us bring these critical stories to light. Share this video with your friends and family. They need to know what's happening to American agriculture. The future of our food security depends on awareness and action. Like this video if you believe American farmers deserve better support, and comment below with your thoughts on how we can turn this crisis around.